dream to begin.
Hey there, theater makers, and welcome back to season 3 of Theater's Not Dead with Keyanna Alexander. I am your host, Keyanna Alexander, and we're going to be kicking off this season with writing in a pandemic. We're talking to playwrights and theater makers about, do you continue working in a quarantine? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And how are we producing stuff when we can't be in the same room with each other? But before we dive into who our very special guest is, a couple of reminders. You can buy your Theater's Not Dead merch at teespring.com. We have a coffee page, so if you want to support the show and get exclusive T&D content, we just put up a private video. So if you want to check out one of my short plays, go ahead, support us on Coffee, buy us that coffee, and you'll get access to a lot of great things like the blog, Key Thoughts, and some other shenanigans along the way. We also want to shout out to Women's Theater Festival for their sponsorship. Thank you for the continued support. And as always, follow us on the social media down below. Now, friends, I'm going to read the intro that this person has provided, and then I'm going to provide another intro. So, Dr. Asabi Stephanie Howard is a director, playwright, performer, and associate professor of theater at North Carolina Central University, where she serves as chair. Now, who this person really is my mentor during my time at Central University. So this is the woman who kind of sat me down and said, "You're too talented to be mediocre." So I am incredibly excited to speak with her about what her process has been like for these last couple of months in being a creative and the chair of a department in a university. And just, she was already remarkable, and then a crisis happened, and then she stayed being remarkable. So without further ado, here she is.
Hello. Hi, Shabby. I love that. I'm going to have to, market that and keep that for all of my intros.
We'll just crop it in. It'll be great. It'll be so
right,
good.
Right. Thank you for having me. I'm so proud of this, and I can't wait to go back to the website to support and get that coffee and all the good inside stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that'd be great. We like to start all of our conversations with asking our guests, how did you get started in theater? I think I know a little bit of this story, but I would love to hear the full-blown version.
Okay, I love to tell it. And I hate it because sometimes I go way back. It's kind of like asking a person at an interview, tell me about yourself. And they say, when I was 5. But anyway, technically, when I was 5, but when I was young, I did theater in church, and I was raised in a Pentecostal church, very strict. So they dramatized biblical stories, and looking back, they were wonderful storytellers and playwrights. They did not know it, I don't think. They were simply doing, what they thought they needed to do to get a message out. So very young, I was a part of those plays, and I think that's where the seed of theater and writing and drama and loving to do church plays was important and imparted to me and implanted in me. But it's kind of funny because we did plays like they were very apocalyptic, like Christ had come and we were in hell and we had 666 on our heads. Yeah, no. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. It doesn't sound as bad as it sounds because they did really great stuff too. But yeah, so that was kind of the beginnings. And then I would do, whenever I had an opportunity in the community, like there was a community center that had a drama class, I would go and be a part of the drama class and perform any chance I got. And then, of course, when I went to college, I said, I didn't major in theater initially. I majored in psychology. I was a theater and theology minor. And, but I took like 21 hours every semester. No one told me, you don't have to take 21 hours every semester. I did kind of like my own schedule. So I was, I was like crazy all over the place, but I was always in my theater classes. I was taking theater classes like I was a major. Around my junior year, I thought, I feel all over the place. Where are my energies going? My energies were going to the theater. That was my passion. It got me up in the morning. If there was no other class I wanted to go to, I was at my theater classes. I was at rehearsal on time, lines learned, blocking was, down packed. And so I said, I think this is where my energies are going. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I graduated from North Carolina A&T with an undergrad degree in performance, a BFA in performance. And I went on to Wake Forest to do communications and theater, and then, of course, on to Regent for my doctorates in communication arts. So yeah, so that's kind of my journey, and I've been doing theater now like forever. It's like breathing. Like, you wake up and you thank God you got breath in you, and then as an artist, you thank God I have another opportunity to do something creative. And so yeah, it's just me now. Um, art is who I am, and theater is who I am. So that's kind of my journey. And I'll tell my students, it's okay, do whatever job you need to do. If you need to work at Walmart in between your gigs, but always do your art. So I get confused when I say, what are you doing with your art? And somebody says, nothing. What? How do you do nothing with your art as an artist? Like, it's such a part of you. So then I said, well, okay, maybe you need to look for your passion somewhere else.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you didn't start out as a theater major. I just kind of put you.
But it's okay because nobody knew. Everybody thought I was a theater major because I was taking that many classes and I was always there in the productions. So actually, it was so funny when I went to my mentor and chair at the time and said, I wanted to change my major. He said, I thought you were a major. I was like, no. He was like, you've been here all the time. I was sure you were a major. I was like, no, I wasn't a major. I was a minor, but I was there. Yeah.
Part of me really, I'm going to ask the question. So why psychology if your passion was theater anyways?
Well, I had a passion for psychology because growing up, how you're going through all these things, and then it was kind of the growing up in the church, and I wanted to know why people did what they did and how they did it and why they did it. But now what I did understand later was I'm still doing psychology because I took human behavior and I put it on stage. And so I study it and I imitate it and I communicate it. And so, I'm still doing that psychology thing in a creative way. So, but I wanted to be able to explain, I thought growing up, I was crazy, but I probably was not. I wanted to know why, why this, why do we think this? Why do people do these type of things? So thus psychology, but I got bored. I mean, at that point in time when I was in psychology, I really didn't care about animal psychology and why the dog was wagging his tail. I really didn't care about industrial psychology, how people function at work. Now I get it, but then I was like, I'd rather be in the theater. So that's what I did.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the actual official questions that I have for you today. So let's start off with pre-pandemic, pre-quarantine, how would you describe your writing process?
Frantic. Maybe I shouldn't say frantic, maybe a little bit erratic. I mean, for me, because I'm normally doing about 4 or 5 projects at a time, I have to force myself to be quiet, to sit down, to listen. There are times when, we have ideas all the time. And then when you have an idea and it keeps coming back and, you can't get rid of it, or characters start talking to you, you know that I have to do this. And so in the midst of my craziness, there are times when I would have to sit down. So there have literally been times when I would write a play in like 4 days. Like I would just take 4 days, do nothing, and write a play. And one of my, it's an older script, but one of my best plays came out of that type of experience. And it's called Reaching for God with Tainted Hands, Dirty Hands, and Tainted Blood. And I took 4 days and I shut myself in and I just wrote. It all had to come out. But now, of course, I've been thinking about it all these times. I have been making notes. I've been, seeing things. and it finally had to come out. So yeah, that's kind of how my writing experience has been. I get a little bit crazy when I have deadlines. Deadlines make me feel very pressured, and sometimes I don't feel like I'm very productive when I have a deadline. So it is nice to write organically, and not against the deadline, because it seems like it shuts me down. But I have done it, that way as well, under duress, and say, I got to get this done. I got to get it done. So, yeah.
It feels like such a cinematic moment, this idea of you shutting yourself in your room for 4 days and just letting the words spill out of you. So cool. Is that a movie yet? Someone should make that a
right
movie.
Right, it should be. Now listen, that is a play. What happens when somebody shuts themselves in a room and all the characters come to talk to them? Yeah, I love
All right,
it.
quick. Someone on the internet, make sure, like, copyright or however this works. I actually don't know how intellectual property works, but we're calling dibs is the
Yeah,
moral of the story.
right.
Okay, internet. So that's, I too, I mean, again, as one of Asabi's students, I think I also am one of those individuals who, if the words don't come to me, I can't force them out. Either I have something to say or I do not. This idea of disciplined writing, right? Where you have people who, Susan Laurie Parks with the whole 365. I could never.
Right.
But yeah, and it's a mythology and it's valid, just, not for your girl.
I mean, I even tried, like, there's a play that I'm trying to finish now, and I thought, if I write a page every day for 60 days, I have my play. Yeah, I haven't been able to do it. So, but that's very doable for me. Like, that could work if those words and the inspiration was coming like I wanted to come, that would work for me. But yeah, no, not really. So when it comes, I try to, hear it, and adhere to it and respect it, and get it out of me.
What has been the hardest script for you to put to the page?
I think the hardest script is a play that is not completed, and I may have mentioned to this a couple of years ago. There's a play I'm writing that centers around Black Lives Matter. So there is one incident that happened years ago in this area in which a young man was killed by the police. Was only about 16, and there was a curfew. A riot had started, but this was back in the 60s, and he was killed after curfew, which is actually the name of the play. Um, but in it, I am looking at the experiences of other men who have lost their lives at the hands of the police, Black men, and that is the hardest for me. I mean, I have to keep putting it down and pick it back up. And then one time I thought maybe I shouldn't, because it's so much out there. But then something happens, and I'm like, I have to, I have to write about this. But I think the emotional part of it, and the sadness that,
And
and
no
I
matter
think we
how
need to
many.
keep telling it.
Sorry?
I was saying, I think we need to keep telling it. I mean, in the different ways, because at some point it feels like no one is hearing us. So there are some things that cannot be told too many times in too many ways. And I think right now that would be one of those stories.
Absolutely. And I always use this as an example for when people are like, "Yeah, well, we've already talked about this. We've already done a show about this. We've already written the story." Um how many iterations of Romeo and Juliet are out there? All
Right.
right? Like
That's right. It is a good example. And we
like
don't say, oh, there's another one. We say, no, it's Shakespeare, and somebody's done something innovative. Right.
yeah, but this time we put everybody in skirts. All right.
Right.
Okay, cuz Now it's a whole new show that I haven't experienced before. Okay. So I can't agree more with you. This idea of tell the story often and as many times as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if you've heard me say this before. My fiance would say, Ashabi, you don't have to put Africa in every show. You don't have to write it in. I said, why? Nobody told me that was a rule. Why can't I? So that is a part of our history. And how about we're still getting over that? So, it's our story.
Which kind of brings me into a different question about when you're writing, how much of yourself do you put in your scripts?
A lot. Now it's a facade. Like, you may not know that's me. It might be a bit of me in this character, a bit of me in that one. And it's so funny because the show I mentioned earlier, Reach for God with Dirty Hands and Tainted Blood, there's a mom character. And so there are bits and pieces of my mom and me, but very camouflaged, because this mom is on drugs. She's not available, but she loves the kid. I mean, my mom was nothing like that, but there were still bits and pieces. And so one of my greatest joys and point of nervousness at the same time was watching my mom watch the show. And so I'm kind of looking at her out the corner of my eye and thinking, is she picking up anything, any subtle things I may have written here that I didn't communicate? So yeah, I put myself all in it, but you just may not know.
And that goes right back into that whole like, oh, you don't have to put African in everything. It's like, well, if that's who I am and if that's who I am writing for, then it makes sense, and it kind of, and you have to now, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not seeing that done in a sincere, genuine, affectionate manner in other shows, whether that be TV, film, or stage, right? So do it again as often as possible.
Thank you. I remember Shange had an interview, and they said, why don't you write about men? And she said, why do I have to? And that was the end. And the interview was kind of like, okay, let me, find another way to come back. Yeah.
Let me just quickly throw this in reverse and oh no. But that's a great response. I love that so much. Yeah. Why do I have to?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the big question of the day, Ashabi. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
How has the quarantine affected your creative process?
It's no easy answer. It has not crushed it, but it has put a damper on it in some ways. So it's a hard question to answer. And I was thinking initially when I saw the flyer that said writing in the pandemic, I thought, oh no, I can't go on the show. I haven't written anything in the pandemic. I've been crazy during the pandemic. I've been just trying to keep my sanity. But then I thought, oh no, wait, I did. I wrote Black Nativity for Justice Theater Project. And oh yeah, I wrote the show at church, The Last Adam. I was the lead writer on that. So I thought, oh yeah, I did after all. But initially, when we first went into shutdown in March, I was in survival mode, particularly as an educator. So all I could think was instruction and how am I going to teach acting and directing online? So my mind went straight to that, and all of my energies, I felt like I was working around the clock. And then everybody wanted you in a virtual meeting and felt like you should be available because you were home. And it was crazy for me. I was stressed. I was a lot stressed, even though I was at home and not running up and down the road. And I was disappointed because I thought I'm going to have a chance to finish this play. I have a colleague of mine who wrote a book, and she reached out to me and she said, I want this to be a play, and I know you are the one who can take it and adapt. And I thought, I'm going to have time to do that. I didn't have time to do any of those things. And I think the times that I was not working, I don't think that I was depressed, but I think I had to sit and do nothing for a minute, which, is very odd for me. And those moments didn't come very often, but when they did come, I think I just had to kind of sit there. So hard question. So in a way, it has dampened my writing, but in another way, it has made me more creative as an artist. So even in the midst of that, I have those 2 plays that I mentioned, but I also directed about 4 or 5 plays since the pandemic. And in a way that I wouldn't want to, because, they were filmed and streamed. So now I became this film director that I didn't want to be. I have a disclaimer. I had a disclaimer. People would say, would you come and direct my video or my commercial? I'm like, no, I'm not a film director. I'm a theater director. I don't do film. But now I do film because I've had to, and I've had to think about shots, and the thing was, my creation not being in my control and giving it to somebody to make the edits. And initially I was thinking, they're going to think the way I'm thinking. They see that I have this direct focus. And then when I'm looking at the cut, it was like they cut away. What happened? That was direct focus. Didn't they see that person right there? So yeah, it's a lesson in your work that you have created for the theater now being in the hands of somebody else as a film editor, videographer. So now I have my storyboard. I'm looking at talking them through. This is the shot I want. I want it this way. How many cameras do we have? I need this perspective. I need this to fade out in the background. So now it became a whole different beast, but it's been a challenge for me, and it has built another muscle that I didn't think I would explore, but I have during the pandemic. And of course, I think all of us know some of the benefits of being able to have this virtual platform, because now we have people all over the world who can see our work. And I have students who, grandmother wasn't able to come to the show previously, but now, they can get on a computer and look at what they've done. And so it just becomes a really worldwide experience, more than probably what we've ever thought for theater. And I think I looked at one report that said it's about 45% of the people watching online theater who did not go to theater face to face. So now we have this whole new audience of people being exposed, and hopefully they will still do both. But now, they've had this online experience and they will walk into the theater. So I think this is the rise of a whole new group of audience members and supporters. So the pandemic has helped me in some ways, and maybe in other ways there, there may have been a quiet period. But what I will appreciate, and I don't know, probably getting ahead of myself with questions, is that at the end of the day, the pandemic has taught me to focus on some other things, that it doesn't have to be, the craziness of doing this, I'm that, but what is really important, because even as artists, now we look at when we're getting the message out and we don't have all the technology and we don't have the audience and we may not have all the set pieces and the lights, what is important? Now we become these storytellers and getting out an important message without all of the stuff. That becomes important. So as an artist now I can go back and say, now that I've had this time, and the pandemic has made all of us, I think differently, what is going to be important to me? And I think writing is quite important to me, and now I have to make more time to do it. and I will. So
There's so much to unpack here. As you mentioned, it's not an easy question to answer. So thank you for going so in depth and sharing your experiences. I'm one, I think it is really important for us to like refocus and understand like what it is that we are doing here. One, 2020 has been a year of reckoning for a lot of theater companies and really analyzing their foundation and how they've been treating especially their black and brown artists. And as a black and or brown artist, like we get to hold that space now. We get to pause and pick and make the conscious decision of, oh, y'all are shut down.
yeah,
Y'all are done. So why do I have to sit around and wait for you to reopen your doors and be welcomed back into a space that was never made for me?
right, exactly.
So yeah, so I agree completely with this idea of, oh yeah, take this time to refocus and figure out what stories you think are worth telling and what collaborators you think are worth your time.
Yeah, and on that vein, I was thinking about you know here again how we think about things differently. I mean, I think I've always thought of theater as being spiritual for me because even if we look at it from an acting point of view, our spirits, our psyches, all of that kind of become involved in the process. That's why we have to be careful about what we do. But the communal experience and getting those things out there, I think, has a power to change and influence. So, in that vein, I think theater is going to become more spiritual because you're right. Now, these things that we are seeing, that we have felt, that we dealt with during the pandemic, we have to put those things on stage. Maybe we didn't feel like we had to earlier. I've always been accused of not doing comedy, and I'm okay with that. I tell my faculty members, "You do it. I don't have to do it. Let me do the dramatic stuff. I'm okay with that." But now somehow as artists, I think what we felt, what we've experienced, who we are, how we feel with our position in the world, and being upset about that. Yeah, we have to talk about it. We have to tell it. We have to write about it. And you're right. This is the time.
This was not part of one of the questions I sent you originally, but
Okay.
as your former student, I know that you love the combination of being both playwright and director for productions. And don't hate me for saying that. It's just an observation. Um, so I'm so curious to hear, do you have a when we're out of the pandemic dream project that you would write slash direct on?
Yes, and it will be after curfew. So that is the first thing and that is the one with the Black Lives Matter. So that will be my first project after and I thought about launching it. I think I still will do some table reads and stuff, but as much as I love the virtual platform, I still feel like sometimes things are lost in translation, and we have to work so hard to make sure that it's not. And so I'm not sure that I want to give the baby over to the newness of all of this. I think I want to kind of wait until we're doing more of the traditional thing that I'm used to, that I have control over. So, but that would be the first thing. And I will say, I don't know. I am not the type of writer where I have to direct my material. I do trust other people with it, and I think the test of a good playwright is to get it out of your hands, because then you have to see how other people perceive it, give form to it, and how well it communicates without you being a close part of that process. So, and the times that other people have directed my pieces, it's kind of cool because I'm not the kind of person that I'm tied to the words. Like unless it's something very particular that I know I wrote for a particular way, I don't remember it. Like I let it go. And it's nice to sit back and I was like, oh yeah, I wrote that, huh? You know. So once it's out there, I let it go, and it can take form. So I am okay with other folks directing my stuff.
Which does bring us to our next question. Have you tried writing a piece explicitly for Zoom or for virtual theater?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I haven't felt inspired. Now, when I saw the question, I thought, okay, now I got to do it because Key asked me had I done it, and I haven't. So now it becomes a challenge. But no, I didn't. I haven't felt any inspiration, and only because admittedly, I got tired of Zoom plays, and I watched them initially, and then I think everybody started kind of shifting a little bit. So now we may be doing a little less of it and more of the staging in the theater without an audience and streaming. Trying to go back to some sense of what we know. But yeah, and not that I got tired in a bad way, but I think it felt like work and class for me because I was already doing a lot of that on Zoom. So while I did not write for Zoom, what I did do is for my classes, the end of last spring, I compiled a show for them to do on Zoom. So I did do that. I put things together and what we had worked on. So I was very specific in that way. But yeah, I hadn't had that inspiration, but now I think I may make it a challenge. Even if it's like a 10-minute thing, I think I'm going to go for it, King.
All right. Well, if we're already challenging you for a piece of writing, I'm going to say not only like virtual theater script, but a virtual theater comedy?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you really pushing it. Well, let me say this. I actually think I can write comedy. And it was, thinking of that, when I was at A&T as a student, I didn't want to perform comedy, but I had to. And I actually had a pretty good knack for it. My timing was pretty good. I did not know it until I explored it. But it was like, and my mentor was like, you do pretty well with it. So who knows? It might be more of a Frasier kind of comedy. But yeah, you may have to, it might have some depth to it. It won't be like a Friday comedy. But I can put a little bit of something in there.
I will take it. I'll take whatever you give me.
You read and say, so this is the comedy?
We had a guest on, months ago now at this point, because time and I don't see eye to eye. Right. But they were having a script being performed virtually, and I asked, well, did you adapt any of it to be performed virtually? And they were very explicit in saying, no, it was written for stage, and I have committed myself to not making edits to make it easier for Zoom. It is what it is, and it's going to stay that way.
Yeah. So, and I appreciate that because, I don't want to have the crutch of the camera either. I don't want to manipulate it to a point where I'm saying, can you cut that out? It didn't work here. Yeah, and this back here, can you fade? I mean, I really don't want to. I mean, I can take advantage of some of the techniques, but I'm a theater purist. I mean, I love theater for just what it is. So, yeah, and I was almost thinking about, I don't know that I like the hybrid of theater being filmed. I think I just wanted to be either theater or film, just one or the other. I'm trying to fit into that hybrid thing, even though I appreciate it.
One of the parts that makes theater so special is the live quality to it. The fact that you can see the show and know that every production is going to be a little different, or you're going to witness mistakes that can't be edited out because it's happening in real time. It's high stakes, and it shows through the actors' performances because they understand, like, oh, I have to do it now, there's no editing. Or the technician, I have to do it all right now, there's no editing. So I agree with you is what I'm trying to say, where this idea that we film it and then people can kind of click on the link at their leisure, it, as an audience member, it takes me out of it because, like, oh, I'll just watch it whenever.
Yeah, that's right, right. Yeah, yeah.
So
And let's not forget the whole communal experience that makes theater almost different than any other art. I mean, when you go to an art gallery, you can still have your individual experience in looking at a piece and interpreting the piece. And, music might be somewhat similar, but, you go to theater, you have these group of people who come from so many different places, bring so many different things with them. But for that moment in time, they're together. They may laugh at the same time. They may cry at the same time. And it's this whole communal thing that becomes unique, I think, to the arts.
case in point, I know we just said there's too many versions of Romeo and Juliet.
And
But
we did another version of it.
the reason I love that production so much was not because it was Romeo and Juliet. It was not because a group of students spent countless hours changing the story to be quote unquote modern times. Like that's never been done before.
Right, right.
It was how interactive the audience was, because there were points when we were doing these shows where the audience was calling out to us and like telling me not to kiss Romeo, right? Like these ideas that they're as much a part of the story as the actors on stage.
That's right.
And I just don't see how that same feeling is happening with virtual theater. As much as I love virtual theater and
Yeah,
I've been on that pedestal, but like,
yeah. Yeah, it's different. It's definitely different. But I do think going back in, we will appreciate that whole experience of coming into one place and experiencing it at the same time, and that immediacy of theater that you talk about. We will appreciate that. And I think even from an artist point of view, we will appreciate rehearsal and rehearsal time and that process, because I tell my students, you want it fast, you want it quick, you want it in a hurry, you want the product, you want the claps, but you don't want the process. And so now I think we can go back and enjoy that process and appreciate it, that everything doesn't come fast and in a hurry.
The reason why, everyone, my reaction is so dramatic is because I think I know the people Asabi had to say that to.
Oh my goodness.
I'm pretty sure I know who we're calling out here. At least a couple of them.
Yeah. But I will say, to their defense, it is a generational thing. I mean, by default, this generation, and I've learned throughout the years, and when I go back, I think, oh my God, I've been teaching that many years. But the generations change. And so as a part of this generation, everybody wants it quick. They want it fast. They want it now. They want it their way. And the internet and the way the world works now does have some impact on that, I think. So, yeah, it's who we're dealing with. Now, on the other hand, I love this generation because they are innovators and they are go-getters and they initiate things. And, you can not just have an idea now, you can have a platform for an idea. And sometimes you don't know where it's going to go. It might just go very far. So, yeah, I love that part about them. But, oh, yeah, it's a different generation.
It's also hilarious to me.
You have to remember, Key, that you may be part of some of that, but, you're different. Yeah, you got this sense of maturity, that your generation may not have. So
It's funny because there were so many afternoons when I would walk into Asabi's office and actively complain about the young people, knowing good and well some of them were older than me.
yes,
And I'm just like, these kids today.
yes, you would. I'm just looking at her like, okay, she's like my dog who doesn't think he's a dog, but yeah, she doesn't think she's a kid, and I'll take it.
I came out this way. I came out already at 32.
Right, you're an old soul, and it's an interesting age, 32. I remember when I turned 32, it might have been 35. My girlfriend called me and said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "I feel like myself. I feel like I've finally grown into who I am. I've been 35 forever." And she said, "You are completely right. You were 35 when we were 10." So you are that person, kid. You came out 35, 32.
Oh no. And this is another reason why you can't put Shabi and I on a phone call together, because this is the conversations we'll start to get into.
Yep, yep.
Okay, back on track.
Okay.
Shabi, I have one last question for you. What do we think 2021's writings are going to be like? And you can talk about your own writing, or you can talk about where we think the industry is going.
Yeah. I think our writings will be, and this is a bit of a repeat than what I've said. I think our writings will be more spiritual, and that it will speak to people, to the cultural, the morality, um, the humanness of people. You've seen that the kind human. Sometimes we have to wear a sign, kind human, almost to remind people to be kind, um, to realize that we are all here for a purpose, and made equally. We have to remind people of that. That's sad. So, with that thought in mind, I think our writings will speak to that type of humanity, um, and that type of spirituality, to be the humans that we're supposed to be those spiritual beings that we are supposed to be, and have the type of connectedness that we're supposed to have. And so I think, yeah, I think it'll be more cultural, more diverse, more sensitive to what people are going through and what they feel. And I think it will cause a type of unity between each other. Kind of on an off note, I've appreciated seeing artists come together to help each other, that may not have come together before. Um, One of my colleagues at Chapel Hill, he called all of the UNC theater directors together at the very beginning to say, "Y'all, what do we do?" We were all in the same place. It didn't matter what our theater budgets were, what our facilities looked like, how many majors Chapel Hill had versus how many. We came together and we all felt the same thing. Um, so that's what I think writings and theater will become as we continue. Um, I do think it will have elements of being more accessible to people as we think about the digital platform and writing for that, and knowing that tons and tons of people will see it and maybe how they relate to it. And so now we have Aristotle's thought of universal themes that anybody should relate to. We have the idea of theater being cathartic, and that was one of his elements, that something that you see or hear, you can relate to it to the point that you would want to change because you don't want to be that person. Um, so I think that's what theater is. It will become more inclusive, what we've been calling for, and more diverse and more meaningful. It won't just be theater, a night at the theater. Let's just go to the theater and have fun. No, it will be theater that will impact our lives and our thoughts and our relationships with people.
I'm always so intrigued to hear if people anticipate theater being escapism or call to action. And I agree with you that and I'm saying we, like, as an industry, because we're all part of this thing that's happening. We've been doing escapism for so long, and where has it gotten us?
Right.
How has it helped?
Exactly.
So yes, to bring attention back to humanity, and you said it so well, Dr. Asabi, reminding people to be kind. I can't wait to read all the work that you come out with this upcoming year, because, I mean, yes, always. Let me know if you need a proofreader. I don't care. I'll make time.
Course. Yes, I love your comments.
Okay, Dr. Asabi, it has come to this time where
wow.
I now ask you.
So much fun. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, it has come to the time where I ask you, what are you working on and what are your upcoming projects?
Oh, what? Gosh, I think I probably said them already. Well, let me back a little bit. The end of the semester, we did, the theater department, NCCU, we did a Crisis of Moments written by Dasan, and it is a COVID play. And Kiki, you will love this. It is a comedy of sorts. It's more of a satire. It's as close as I can get to comedy as possible. So I was literally telling the students, have fun, go over the top. Like, you can go there, you can make it, a little bit of a stock character. It was done in the style of Saturday Night Live. So can you imagine me letting go to let that happen and not bringing people back in? Watch yourself, make it real. So we had a great time with that. We did it in conjunction with Duke and a grant dealing with COVID. So, and also with the psychology department here, the biology department here. So we're going to make that available for our patrons to see. It has already aired. It aired in December, but we're going to put that on our website so that others can see it. So yeah, that's one of the things I'm happy about. We actually did a couple of other things last semester. We did Facing Our Truth, which is 6 10-minute plays. We just haven't received the rights to stream them, so we're waiting on that. And so as soon as that comes through, we will. And that is actually, the 10 plays are on race, privilege, and Trayvon. And so, yeah, some of them there are a bit abstract, but another way of getting the message out. And we are looking forward to ending with a production. We just don't know what it is yet, so I'll be making sure we get the word out. And I had to get to that point where I was okay not knowing. I had to tell the students, listen, this is a new time, and it's okay for us not to know right now, because we're all kind of trying to figure it out. We don't know where we'll be in April. Hopefully we'll be in a better place. But so, it's okay to take time to figure it out. So that's where we are. We're still doing it. We're going to really promote our student-directed plays. Our Playwright, and we have Howard Craft on faculty this semester, and we love him and all that he's done in the community. So he is doing playwriting. So we're going to have some new plays coming out of that class that we're going to feature. So we're really going to focus on student creativity and what we're doing in the classroom, which I think will work well with the whole digital platform.
I took playwriting under Dr. Asabi, and at the very end of the semester, when we present our 1 acts and have a cute little table read, and it was so great, Asabi's note to me was, and I will remember this to the end of my days, I mean, it was the most complete script out of the class.
I was thinking in my mind, I remember Keith's play being pretty good. Like you went through the steps and you took the time. Yeah. It was about a lady, and was she sick?
Yes. It was a like ailing mother, and then the daughter had to take care of her and was just over her head and everything. Oh, Shab.
Yeah. Yeah. You did a good job.
Why, thank you. Also, I'm so glad this is being recorded because Shabi doesn't use the good job phrase very often. So, thank you. Thank you so much for the compliment. I'm also
I can give it to you now that you've graduated. I can give that to you now that you graduated. Because, sometimes y'all are looking for too much of a pat on the back prematurely. Like, why do you need a pat on the back? You haven't done anything. Yeah, that's how it is sometimes.
so much shade is happening in this conversation.
No, it's true. It's real. And as I get older, you said people get older, they tongue get loose. So, but it's true. It is how I feel. Oftentimes we baby too much. I mean, I should not have to baby you and, just congratulate you for coming to class. Come on. You big now. That's how one of my teachers said, you big now.
Well, I am so excited to not only see what NCCU theater department is going to be pushing out within these next couple of months while they are in their spring semester, but also kind of just where we're going as the Durham Black community of artists, right? Like, and Shabi is located in not Durham. I won't say where you live, I promise. But like the Triangle area in general, right? Like,
and it's okay. I'm in Greensboro, so I love that I'm a part of all of that. The Triangle, the Triad, and I'm up and down the road.
You mentioned Dasan, who is also cranking out a lot of work. People are being prolific out here, and I can't wait to see like 2023 when everybody has been vaccinated and we've all finished our scripts and had those first couple of table reads and workshops, and now we're putting them in full productions. 2023 is about to be some good theater.
It is. It sounds like a post-pandemic theater festival. Go ahead and start working on it, Key.
It might end up being a whole movement shop where we have to now call it like the post-pandemic renaissance.
I love it. Yes. Go ahead and coin it now.
Okay, internet. We're calling dibs.
That's right. As soon as you get off.
Yes. Okay. This has been such a remarkable time.
It has.
And it's part catch up between the two of us and part, girl, what you been doing?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
I love it. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I feel so honored that you reach back and you grab your professor and say, come and be on my show. I love it. Yep. Call me anytime.
Well, if you say that, Shab, you know I will. And that's...
But, I say that because, y'all, when Kiki was here, I never really asked Kiki to do things. I just kind of told, okay, Kiki, listen, we got this project going on. I need you to do such, such, such. So let's get on it, And there would be times that she'd be like, okay, so dramaturge, I'm going to do, now what am I doing? I was like, okay, I'll tell you later. But go ahead and get on board, and this is what's happening. Here's the script.
There were so many phone calls where Shabi just said, say yes, and then I'll explain it to you later.
Right.
I just need verbal consent that you have agreed to this position.
Yeah, you have made it into the Shabi Hall of Fame, I tell you, because, you've been my sidekick, I tell you. I love it. And then I got word because I was thinking, oh gosh, Kiki's a mini me. She's all over the place. Is this good or bad? But look at you. It's good. I didn't damage you after all.
I'm so much a Shabi disciple, it hurts, but here we are.
For you. Yep. So you need to be bigger and greater. You have that.
I mean,
you know.
Shab, I promise I'm trying to keep people proud. I promise I am.
You are. You're doing it. You're doing it, my dear.
Okay. Updates for our audience. As per usual, go ahead, go to that coffee link. I love that I have this little thing on my video now that shows it. Go ahead, click that coffee link. Buy some merch at Teespring so that you can have my name on a t-shirt if you so choose. You're welcome, universe. Thank you, as always, Women's Theater Festival, for your continued support. And we have an Instagram. Go ahead, check that out. We have a Twitter. Okay, everybody. This has been Dr. Asabi Stephanie Howard from North Carolina Central University. Oh, so good. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your words. This has been Keyanna Alexander letting everybody know, hey, friends, theater's not dead. See you next time.
Bye-bye.